Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. And today we are going to continue our travel log as we find various tabletop role-playing games, specifically not classic Dungeons and Dragons, that are embrace the culture, history, mythology, and fantasy of various cultures in our real world around our world. And today we are going to delve into Alexander the Great from a game, mind you, this is free, from World Anvil, known as Evolution Pulse Rebirth. So join us for this grim, dark look at history, a vast empire, maybe ancient aliens, and more. So thank you very much for joining me. Let's get past the intro while you go and take your bio break and get a snack, and join us back here for at least an hour of a page-through review of Evolution Pulse Rebirth. So, welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. This is a free quick start rules from created by and taking the rules from World Anvil and creating a game known as Evolution Pulse Rebirth. At the time, I was following a Kickstarter. This Kickstarter has been postponed indefinitely, and it may not actually come out, but there is a 70-page quick start that encompasses what this game is about, and you can get this for free. Not sure whether World Anvil will restart this or not, but I think it gives you enough information to really embrace this world. And it does. It definitely does use the rules, the SRD from World Anvil. So allow me to temporarily switch over to share out with you this. Oh no, it won't let me do that. Let's see, cancel here. It uses these rules. I'm gonna switch this over. The Monad Echo rules from World Anvil, and this is also free. It's an SRD OGL that you can use to emulate this rule set, and yeah, you can design your own game and your own rules using this. It is in Creative Commons, and it uses a unique dice pool system, D6s dice pool system, very much narrative based, and it's like I guess if you're familiar with the game known as Fate, it's like Fate Plus. So the title of this game is a bit strange and odd, because at the time that I heard about it, I was like, oh, this must be some kind of like, I don't know, alien nomadic thing or something, Evolution Pulse Rebirth, but it's a bit more historical. So let's get to our page through here. So Evolution Pulse Rebirth, and there's some great artwork, black and white art. The cover isn't, but there's some really great black and white art, kind of oil painting kind of thing. Anyway, Evolution Pulse Rebirth takes place in, here it is, grimdark tabletop role-playing setting. And it says Evolution Pulse Rebirth is a grimdark tabletop RPG set in an ancient world subjugated by mysterious alien gods, where humanity's caste either revere or reject their rule. And so you play a character stuck between vast empires ruled with an iron fist by ancient alien gods, maybe, kind of, sort of, unexplained, or living in the wilderness, the undefined, uncharted, brutal wilderness. And it begins with The opening of the Kunak Sorum, a cursed black casket. Alexander the Great has accidentally invited something to Earth. The Hekath Daru Sanru. Powerful beings immediately hailed as the divine. And you do get this idea, like, black casket. Was it really a casket? Or was it an alien, I don't know, an alien stasis chamber or something? They don't really explain because it's taken from the point of view of ancient people. But it's like Alexander the Great has extended this vast empire and brought back with it something horrible. And these are the people living in this world. So if you're into ancient aliens, this is cool. If you want to ignore the ancient alien gods part of it, easy to do, because they could just be undead or liches or something. But there is a Lovecraftian eldritch horror look to it when we get to some of the art. These are the people that have designed this game. World Anvil is I believe it's primarily Italian, but they have, of course, it's, the whole production crew is international. And but yeah, I'm not going to pronounce any of these names here with my lazy tongue. But these are all the development people that are part of it. And of course, you hear right here we have like World Anvil and the Monad ecosystem, and then a table of contents. So it's only 70 pages, and it covers a lot of history and fluff. So if you're someone who likes world building, you're really going to love this. And the language that is used in it is very, for me, I like a non specific, UK language. So it uses lots of languages that are like world languages, and I appreciate that, even if it makes it a little difficult for my brain to pronounce it even in my own head without saying it out loud. But it does give you a timeline, the empire, and the introduction. All right, so let me go into a 2-pager. And it talks about the project, what the project was going to be about. Right now, it's if you go to the World Anvil website, it does say that it has been held back a bit. It could be just because of interest or how long it takes for people to get interested in the game. I mean, not how long, but you need a number of people to run a really great Kickstarter, and it could be problems with that. It could also be like, maybe people don't really want to be part of this. So I'm like, great, it's free rule set for me. Thank you very much, by the way. As you can see over in the artwork over to the left, quite a bit Lovecraftian. I'm presuming the people below are human beings, and that thing is horror incarnate. And this goes into the Daevas and the Sintum and the Quran and the Marikina and the Conquest. It goes into the details of what happened when and slightly where, because it's like Alexander the Great extended this huge empire, and then the empire is taken over by these interlopers, and it kind of reflects backwards. So if you're one of these individuals that wanted to follow and wait on bated breath for Alexander the Great to return, instead you get this. Let's go to some artwork. Talks about the peace, the rebirth, and this is where the title comes from: Evolution, Pulse, Rebirth. And the while I don't particularly like the name, it does actually describe the setting, the evolution of humanity. Some people who have embraced these unknowable alien beings have evolved. The pulse, which is like the pulse of the mundane and the magic and what that is, and then the rebirth of this world and how it's kind of being terraformed in a way. And player characters are stuck between 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 the two worlds of the logic and the law created by these Lovecraftian beings and the wild, living out in the wild, and trying to navigate what caste you are, because that's very important in this world as well, because humanity has basically been air quotes gifted, basically enslaved. There's a piece of artwork right there. And you represent a character that's trying to survive in this world. So, Nameless, what's going on? Yeah, got big sci-fi vibes. So did I. When I heard about it, I was like, oh, it's a sci-fi game. It's not. Yeah. Sounds like Stargate from the Egypt planet's point of view. Yep, exactly. I was like, is this like Stargate? It's very close to it, and it's very grimdark. One thing that I'm starting to appreciate from these indie games, these not D&D games, is that unapologetically, many of them are embracing the very things that are being sanitized from your classic Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I don't have a problem with the owners of Dungeons and Dragons, the intellectual property doing what they're doing, simply because it doesn't belong to me, right? So I can't decide what somebody else does with their lunch, right? But some of the things that make role-playing games incredible are confronting the very things that we hate in human nature. And much of that is from the bad guy's point of view, right? There's a reason why we want to punch bad guys in the throat, and that's because they do horrible things. If you get rid of the horrible things that they do, it kind of removes the motivation. And part of this in this game is it really embraces a caste system, meaning you are forced into a role. You must portray your role, and no one cares what your opinion is about. And which means that you do have upper class, middle class, lower class, enslaved, indentured servitude, breeding classes. Like there are those caste systems. And of course, as a player, your ass is to go out there and break those rules. And that's kind of the cool part. Here I'm stopping here just a moment to talk about the core mechanic of this game. And I wish I was far more math inclined with the core mechanics of the monad echo system, which is what this uses. So it uses I'm going to get a bit nerdy here. Baphomet may be late again. It uses a dice pool system of D6s, okay? And when you roll the dice, you succeed on any number except a 1. So an example would be that if you roll 2 dice or 12 dice, if a single number 1 comes up, you've failed. Yep, that's exactly what it is. And you fail. And mind you, you could say it's like ancient aliens enslaving Egypt. It's much more, not much more. Imagine ancient humanity and Alexander the Great going from the west to the east across Europe, through like Turkey and the Middle East into, Mongolia area, like that region, and then coming backwards east, coming back westward, and it's kind of like that. So it does come across as like, artwork from me being just an armchair individual Egyptian, but it definitely incorporates and embraces many other cultures in it, and they've been reshaped. So it's not an exact history. So for you history buffs out there, relax. It's not an exact history. It's a extremely modified history. So when you roll these dice pools, and here's the odd part of this game, you do want to roll more than 1d6. You don't want to roll a bucket of them, because the more dice you roll, the greater chance you have of rolling a 1. So a single 1 rolled will fail your roll, no matter how many dice it is. If a single number 1 comes up, you fail. Other than that, you succeed. So you're like, well, wait a minute, what is the optimum math to achieve success with more dice than rolling one, but then why would I want to roll more dice? So the reason for rolling more dice is that this game uses something called an OL, opposition level. Every game uses a different, you could call it a DC, you could call it a TN for test number or challenge rating or whatever. This uses an OL, which is an opposition level. And normally you need successes to overcome a challenge. And by standard, whatever your opposition level is, and here we have some examples. Here we have 3 to 5 and 6 to 7, right? An average difficulty, something difficult to overcome, something very difficult to overcome, which is 8. And you need as many successes as the opposition level, between 3 and 7. And usually about 5 or 6 is what you need. So it means that you need to have whatever your rating is for your skills or abilities or whatever. So if you have a 4, that means when you roll the dice and you succeed, you subtract 4 from that opposition level. So you may have to roll multiple times for very high opposition levels. Unfortunately, that means you're rolling multiple dice, which means you have a greater chance of rolling a 1. So how do you avoid doing that? Well, what happens is you use some of your traits, and your traits allow you to ignore some or many of those ones that you would roll. So it sounds like an auto success game, but it isn't, because the more dice you roll, you might roll a 1, which is really bizarre. So now normally what ends up happening as well, it's like, oh, well, if the opposition level is only going to be like, say, 3 to 5 or 6 or something, then why should I even modify the roll? Why do I even want to add more dice to it, whatever? It's because every time you roll the dice, there's an automatic complication. So the standard in this game is like Powered by the Apocalypse and other Fate and other games where you succeed with complication, and that is the standard of the game. If you want to succeed without any complications, you have to add 1 to the opposition level, and if you want to succeed by not only succeeding, but you want a critical success, you choose to add 2 to the opposition level, making it even more difficult. So the standard is everything is put in the player's hands, which is kind of cool. So whatever the game master says, you want to pick the lock, it's a 4. All right. Well, that means if you pick the lock, you're automatically going to have a complication. You break your lock picking tool, someone hears you, the lock trip is open, but it trips an alarm, or a trap goes off, or what have you. You get trapped inside the room after you open up the door, it locks behind you, something like that. If you want to succeed without having all those complications, you add 1 to it, and if you want a critical success, you add 2 to it. So you basically like preload your critical successes. And over here on the left, it actually explains like exceeding the opposition value by 1, exceeding the opposition value by 2 or more is a critical success. And yes, you could do it in one roll, which means you're rolling a bucket of D6s, which means a 1 might come up, or you take your time and start to work at it. Okay, I'm going to take 3 rounds to pick this lock because I don't want to fail, and I don't want to roll 7 D6s. I only want to roll my 3. It sounds strange, and there's like a how do you explain this? You're presupposing what might happen beforehand because of the math. And listen, I don't know how the math works out, but it's strange. And again, like I'm telling you, this is a full rule set, so you can actually get this for free, download it, take a look at it, use it for your own purpose, make up your own game. Yeah. Mateo says, that is a cool mechanic. I came up with something similar where any ones would be a fail. Yeah. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a success. So it sounds like it's a push. It is definitely a push your luck mechanic. The game doesn't suggest this, but this is how I would do it. I let the player roll 2 dice, 3 dice, and go, listen, instead of rolling all the bucket of dice at once, I'd go, you want to roll another 1 or 2? You want to push your luck? In that same roll, like they're like, got six dice. I'm only going to roll 3. Like, okay, you want to roll another one? Why don't you roll 2 more? See if you can get more successes to get that opposition level down. And like, all right, I'm gonna roll 2 more. Roll, damn it! Oh, yeah. It is very much like that, and it also inadvertently prevents people from min-maxing the rules, because you don't want to roll 15 d6s because it's like, yeah, you're gonna roll a 1. It also makes players be careful, so you take their time, which pushes the pressure level up. So, hey, we need to pick the lock. I could do it in 1 roll, or I can do it in 3. Do I want to take the time to do it in 3 when there's guards running around or something like that? It's a unique system, and I'm drawn to it. I'm not sure if it's good for. I'm not sure if this mechanic system is good for like heroic, like high magic, but I think it really fits into extra mortal characters like Indiana Jones. Like, you're highly skilled, maybe a few mystical treats in it, things in there, but very humanistic characters that are like courageous, but they're still vulnerable, and I like that because there's a lot of fail with consequence or succeed with consequence built into the system. And yes, we're showing some artwork here. They have something known as Soma, which is like this is the points you have to expend for successes and for using your special gifts, and they call it Soma. I believe it's an Italian word. It represents the willpower of a character, the ability to draw the last drop of energy from the deepest recesses of their mind and body. A player character, they call it a PLC. I think that's just a language thing. Can spend Soma points in various ways, but they are mostly used to obtain automatic successes during position or defense rolls, or to activate the effects of some gifts. And in this game, you will notice there's something known as position or defense rolls. And position is basically us having a conversation and saying, me as the facilitator in this game, it's actually called the Sanctum. I am the Sanctum and the game master, basically. And the Sanctum tells you, Sanctum is like a seer. And as the Sanctum, I will say, you can pick the lock, but I'm letting you know there's guards and they're on high alert. They might hear you. And so we are having a discussion about the position that you're in, that kind of thing. And then they have descriptors. If you guys are familiar with Fate, this is a descriptor, but it's far more story-based. So in Fate and some other games, you'll have an aspect and like a number associated with it, and it's real short. But in Monad Echo, they want you to be a little bit more descriptive. So you might have, here is an idea of a descriptor, and it says something along the lines of this. Serena, the Nasani slave combatant, has the descriptor, I am a slave combatant. I believe only in strength and rage. This sentence tells us quite a lot about our protagonist. She's a fighter, accustomed to weapons, and probably able to estimate the combat prowess of another person. At the same time, Serena leans more towards action than diplomacy, and this aggressive behavior could get her into trouble in social contexts that require a degree of self-control. And so there are no specified like strength. I mean, they do have stats, but for the most part, 95% of your character are just descriptors. And this is an example of it. I am a slave combatant. I believe only in strength and rage. And so it's in character creation, you're supposed to make a character that has a benefit. Like, I'm a combatant. I believe in strength. Like, this is my good part, but I also have a limitation. Like, well, I'm enslaved, and I have been enslaved before, and I believe in like strength and rage instead of, say, diplomacy or something of that nature. Pretty cool. And it means that when you fail rolls, you can default to, well, because my character was upset, I kick over, I don't know, a shelf of stone pottery and it makes noise, right? You can say, well, why did someone hear you? And you're like, I was pissed off and kicked the door open, or kicked the table over, flipped it over because I was pissed off. You can like fall into the narrative. Here, along with this quick start set, is something called The Miracle, and it is an adventure, and it talks about running the game, and it gives notes. There's notes for the MS. The MS is basically their game master for this game, and remember, this is created by World Anvil, and much of the staff, from what I understand, and doing my little armchair research, is that it's primarily Italian, but a lot of their staff is like spread across the Euro theater and the United States, of course, but mainly the Euro theater. And so there is when reading this, there's as a stateside speaker, you can see that the language is a little bit off, which I actually prefer it, because it makes it pulls me into the game. But for someone who wants their language to be written in a particular way, it will show up, especially with descriptors and things like that. There's not mistakes. It's just it's weird. The syntax is a little different, a little off. This is a character here, and it just goes. It shows you what the character sheet kind of looks like. But I'll get into it. You know what? I'll get to another character, an actual character sheet. But this does talk about some of the characters and how they're written. There's a character here, Talbo, and this is basically what the Talbo character sheet even looks like for an NPC. It's basically like a descriptor, protect Melita and indulge her wishes at any cost, and then there's like a power, which is like extra 1 wound, opposition value 6, and that's all you need. Which I like. I appreciate that as a game master. It's like, I don't want stat blocks. It's bullshit. I gotta remember all this stuff. But anyway, this goes into the outline of the adventure, known as The Miracle, and many of the aspects of this game are about confronting the caste that you're in, which means like you might be enslaved, you might be a pit fighter, you may be an oracle, you might be an outsider or someone running around in the wilds. Many of the people running around the wilds are not trusted, whereas if you live within the empire, you are expected to be a service worker in many ways. You might be building monuments to the great evils. You may be a spy. You may be a soldier, and you're not allowed to leave your position. So immediately once the players get together from different castes, you're already breaking the rules. So just making up a character that's like, nah, I'm not following those rules, automatically puts you at a disadvantage. I'm going to move towards the end of this scenario here, and here we have our example characters that you get to use. And in Evolution Pulse Rebirth, also it is hinted at, and I bet this was going to be in the Kickstarter, that the fine line between medieval adventuring in a grim dark world and technology is undefined, because the people at this time don't understand the difference between the two. So we, as the people playing the game, won't understand the difference between the two. So someone could have a enchanted item or be gifted, but maybe it's because it's a high-tech device, or your genetics have been altered, but you don't know that, right? So within the world, there is no delineation between technology and magic. Everyone thinks everything's magic. So I kind of like that, because and it also comes across as very grimdark. So it's not like, hey, I have a phaser. It's more like, you reach your hand down into the goo, and a tentacle wraps its arm around you with lamprey-like teeth that attach to the base of your spine or the back of your head, and then it opens up your vision to a world of thermal imagery or something. And it's like, no, it's not a device. It's more like a living thing that contorts around your body. And I I like nasty things like that. It's a bit of body horror, which bothers me, but I like that because it pulls me into it. So here we have a player character, and you know what? It's a 2-pager, but I'm gonna make this a 1-page so that we get to take a look at this character first. Get some artwork up in here. Too big. And see what we have to work here. So we got some artwork here. Sketch art, which I really like. Bayon, maybe? Or Bayon? The capable Iquazi leader. The game does talk about the different castes and where you're from and what you represent. And these are your attributes. So remember I talked about rolling the dice. I'll get back to your comments. I apologize I'm not ignoring you. But instead of rolling the dice all the time for everything, if the opposition level is equal to or below these, you just automatically succeed. Basically, you subtract your attribute directly from the opposition level, so you don't have to roll the dice. So if there's no need to roll the dice and we don't want to roll the dice, you could say, okay, to break the door open, if it's an opposition level of 6, well, if my body is 2, I can do that in 3 rounds. Subtract 2, subtract 2, subtract 2. Or you could say it's an opposition level of 6. There's no way your body of 2 is going to break it in one go. You're going to have to roll dice to slowly chip away at it, kicking the door, using a crowbar, picking the lock, getting the little bolts and the hinges out of it, that kind of thing. But if you just don't want to roll the dice, if you want to find out what an auto success is, if your mind and presence are 4 and opposition levels 4, you just automatically do it. And I like that default as well. But these are how many dice you get to roll. And then it's modified by this part. We're going on to the second part of the character sheet. And this character has a soma of 8. So whenever they want to engage their descriptors, you can spend soma. It's basically like a gift. And you burn soma and you go, well, because and you fill in the blank. If you could answer the question, because of my descriptor, I should get a bonus for this. You get the soma, you get the extra dice, and you get to do that thing. So here we have ties with other characters. Kind of cool. And descriptors. One descriptor. I spent my whole life defending the Empire's borders. I only trust other Iquazi. And then there's a gift. Expert. Once per scene, you can ask a question about a place, a person, or a situation. The MS will reply with something useful. And in order to use this gift, you've got to burn soma for it. I burned a point of soma to find out what I want to know. And then with this descriptor, I spent my whole life defending the borders. You can add, hey, I'm going to defend my allies because I'm always defending someone. And I'm going to spend soma for that. And you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then here's another one. I am a good descriptor. I am a good leader and can put my subordinates in the spotlight, but I do not tolerate my word being questioned. And you can see there's a blending of a good part and a negative part. And then there's a gift of tactician. Once per scene, you can spend 1 soma point to grant 1 advantage die to an ally able to receive an order. Justify your help through one of your descriptors. It makes sense, right? I yell out, you're playing a character, you yell out an order, and then you spend a point, but they get an advantage die. And an advantage die means that if you roll a 1 on that advantage die, the 1 doesn't count as a failure. And a disadvantage die means if you roll it a 1 or a 2 on a disadvantage die means you fail. So. And then last descriptor, I am descended from a powerful and noble family, and everyone owes me respect. I have more than one enemy throughout the empire. And as you can see, I am a descendant from a powerful, noble family. Everyone owes me respect is the good part. And then I have more than one enemy throughout the empire. That's the bad part. So you're automatically building a character with benefits and limitations. And then you have noble blood, gift. And then when you fail on your rolls, you can always default to that. And as the MS, I can dangle dice in front of you, by using your negative aspects against you. Here's another character. And let's get into your comments, and then we can move on out. Drew says, I think Soma is Latin. Let me type it in here. Soma. Let's see what this says. There are multiple matches for Soma, including a Sanskrit word, a Papayan language. Soma is a Sanskrit word that means distill, extract, or sprinkle, which kind of makes sense. Let's go with Italian. Let's see. Let's go with Italian. Let's see what's in. The Italian word for soma can be translated as burden or something to be carried. The Italian word soma can be translated as amount or sum in English. So I think it means all of that. I think this. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's exactly what it's supposed to mean. Also, the drug in Brave New World is called soma. I did not know that. Soma is apparently Greek in origin. Yep. A drink from an unknown, fruit from the gods, and sum of a body minus its reproductive seed. Yeah. It's the thing you carry with you, both the burden and the power and the life inside of you. So, yep. Heathen says, hi, cruised in late. What is the basic setting of the game? Alexander the Great goes out into the, travels the dark unknown world, creating an empire, finds mysterious, alien, ancient gods, and brings that horror back to the rest of the world. I hope that's a good descriptor, because sometimes I trip over my own words. But yeah, right here we're going through a character sheet. There's a lot more written on the character sheet than we would normally do that, but Kema, the noble Masoran warrior, and here are the stats. The stats, remember, because you don't want to roll lots of dice, the stat numbers aren't very high. Probably a 6 or 7 is like your max. Most characters are going to be extra human, but not superhuman. And you have your stats here: high body score, presence, and these absolutely positively. No one needs these descriptors: body, reaction, mind, anomaly, presence. You guys know what that means. Anomaly is like magic-ish, because we're not sure whether it's magic or psionics or technology in this world. But imagine the world broken into 2 categories. There's the Empire, which is highly ordered by Lovecraftian, horrible, ancient aliens, or the Wilds, which is impossible to survive in, unregulated, uncharted world where survival on your own is very difficult. And you as a player character kind of have to ride that thin line between being in the Empire, following the Empire, and being in the Wilds. And you as player characters are kind of probably a mishmash of both worlds coming together and trying to navigate this dark world. Here we have the part with the second page of the character sheet. 8. This character has 8 soma that they can spend for successes and to activate their gifts. And there's descriptors. I'm a devotee of the Empire and have boundless faith in the divines. I never argue against their will. Yes, the divines are these ancient aliens. And then it's about breaking your caste. Are you a warrior? Are you a defender? A soldier? Are you a slave? A servant? A seer? Are you one of these caste members? Caste, as in, like, where do you belong in society? Or are you one of the wild ones? And then there's gear. It's not quite quantum gear, but there really aren't very many rules for creating gear for your characters. And again, like I said, there is an SRD for this game. Let me click over to SRD temporarily. This is the SRD. It's 115 pages, most of it trying to describe how the system works. The SRD is free as well over at World Anvil. So, even with this artwork, let me stop. Sorry about that. Even with the artwork, we've got like a soldier, a modern day person. We've got like an astronaut going into maybe a interdimensional portal. So the SRD is not fantastical. It is just basically like you make up your own rules, do whatever you want, and it's kind of cool. And again, it is like a very much push your luck system. Copyright 2023, World Anvil. And then here's an introduction to the SRD, OGL, what's it intended to use, how do you use the rules, basic rules. There it is, scaling the game, the scenes, position and defense, which is basically you're being active, which puts you in a position of success, or defensive, which means you're rocked back on your heels. But basically, everything is done through position and defense checks. Everything is done that way. Physicality, social interactions, exploring the world, it's all of those. It is better for a player to be proactive and put yourself in a good position than being defensive, because it always rocks you back on your heels. Do not hide the threats and NPC descriptors. This is something else in the game that kind of breaks the metagaming rule for most other tabletop role-playing games, which is don't hide the things from the player character. So NPC descriptors are like how an NPC acts towards the player characters, so the players can kind of get an idea of what they should do. Like, hey, this person seems kind of seedy, or seems like they're holding something back, or they are laughing, but there is tension in their eyes, and you give that information to the players for them to go, oh, maybe there's a bigger threat, right? And it's a little bit metagamey, but at the same time, it's like, let's not beat around the bush. The player characters are kind of the badasses, so let them know what the hell's going on, so they don't have to keep doing a lot of guesswork. And then it talks about other things, and this is all part of the SRD. And as you can tell, like a lot of these are just 1 page, 2 pages of explaining to you what it is. Advantage and drawback is a little complicated, because when you're rolling the D6s, you can get some dice that are advantage and some dice that are disadvantage. So dice that are at advantage, if you roll a 1, do not count for failure. Dice that are disadvantage, a 1 or 2 is a failure. So you might need to have 3 different colored D6s to roll the bucket of D6s that you want and separate some from the others. What you could do is, it's not suggested, is have the player roll a few of them at a time to see exactly when something breaks, and for good or bad. Because it even says the dice used for this purpose should be a different color from your standard dice. Drawback dice cause a failure or a result of 1 or 2. Advantage dice do not cause a failure or a 1, but a neutral result that does not count as a success. So it doesn't count for you, it doesn't count against you with advantage. With failure, a 1 or a 2 counts against you completely. But anyway, let's go back to evolution, and let's go to another player character, and then we'll talk more about the world. Again, here's some more artwork. Back in ye olden days, when I was young and dumb, I hated this artwork, but I like it because I like the sketchiness of it, because I can place myself in it far more easy with like a sketched watercolor, charcoal vagueness to it. I'm a traveling acrobat. My home is on the road, and I love to indulge in the pleasures life can offer. Different characters. Here's another one. Ethoma, the Narta headhunter. Unfortunately, this Kickstarter did not come out. This bothers me a little bit, which I like that they put it in here. This character's all their stats are 3s across the board, and it's just like, I'm not good at one thing. I'm just like, I'm all right at a lot of things. And then it goes into what the character is like. You'll notice that there's a big spot here for wounds, because wounds can be numbers and they can also be conditions. So wounds aren't really about hit points. If you notice there are no hit points. Wounds are basically stacked conditions that can, I'm bleeding, I'm broken, I'm scared, embarrassed, bankrupt, hunted, and all of those things are going to be conditions that exist in the game. So it's not like I have 3 hit points. It's more, how many conditions can I carry with me before my character becomes untenable to even play anymore, right? So anyway, these are example characters that you can use in the game, and they try to embrace what this game is about, the different caste systems. Like, for example, on this character, it says, "I belong to the Lahia caste, and ours is the mark of the devout. We have a strong bond with our Igisum Dagu, which grows and prospers in the center of our chests. The second heart, as we like to call it, grants us strength of character and heightened sensibility to emotions." And what the hell does that even mean? Does that mean that they have like a, I don't know, nanotech inside their body, or is it psychic power or something? The answer to all of that is yes. Yeah, they don't. The people here don't know, so you don't know as a player, and so that means we don't know as the people playing the game. And then there's different abilities and gifts. And lastly, we get to the very end of this document. Evolution, Pulse, Rebirth. This, by the way, both this and the Monad Echo rules are free, downloadable, and you can find them yourself. It says coming in 2021, but it was put on. The Kickstarter was put on hold indefinitely. I have a feeling it's not coming back. So let me go to the top of the page, and then we can talk a little bit about the world and talk to you guys. Yeah, the wound of embarrassment, total reality. Hell yeah. Sometimes even worse, right? I mean, we're still in our winter cold season here with snow and ice and everything. And I remember, I'm a letter carrier, if you guys don't know. And I remember falling on my ass, and a customer saw me, and I said something to the effect of like, "There's no Band-Aid for an ego, is there?" And the person just shook their head slowly, like, "Nope." I was like, "Yeah." let me get off my ass real slow. Oh man. Let me get back to some of your comments here. That, yeah. We're not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. Yep, ancient aliens. Shai says, Alexander the Great, the only man Ozymandias ever felt any kinship for. Yeah. Says, oh neat, not a fan of ancient aliens, but I love alt histories and love cosmic horror. Yes, and that's the thing about, I love things that inspire me. So you do not have to play this game with like starships and aliens, because that's not what happened. What happened was, the rumor is that Alexander the Great opened up a dark casket that released these Lovecraftian semi-humanoid beings. Let me see if I can let me find one of the images here, if I can get to, come on. Here's the beginning. There we go. And like, where did this thing come from? Is it part of this ancient world, or is it alien? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but you definitely don't want to kiss it on the cheek. Yeah, we're not aliens. We are Cladastical classifies as both monkeys and apes. We evolved here. So yeah, it's nothing a player with an insight check would not find. It just saves a roll, so I'm all for it. Talking about the style of the game. So you have an opposition level, a number, usually from between 3 and 7. 5 and 6 is your average. And so if your stats, if you don't want to bother rolling the dice, and you don't have to, you can say like, all right, to find the clue is an opposition level of 6. But to perceive it, let's say whatever your character has, like anomaly or presence of 2. So, but the opposition level is 6. You can say, well, if you take your time to look around the room, and then whether you tell them or not, it'll take you 3 rounds to look for it. Maybe you say, listen, if you search for 10 minutes, you can reduce the opposition level. Or it'll take you, and you do some calculation in your head, it's going to take you about half a day. And the player goes, sure, I'll do that. Then just don't bother rolling the dice. Which bothers me. I saw this in some reviews of Vaesen, which is another dice pool system. It's a Nordic horror 1800s Nordic horror investigation game. And they were just like, well, I don't like the dice pool system because it looked like I should succeed on this and I didn't. And I'm like, well, you chose to roll the dice. Don't roll the dice and you won't have that problem. But yeah, I don't know. Drew says, I prefer that transparency style of play. Talking about talking about here, let's go back to, this is the SRD. And in the SRD, it talks about some of the best practices in this system. And one of the Monad Echo rules, which is the SRD, talks about do not hide the threats and NPC descriptors. And if we go to that page, do not hide the threats and NPCs descriptors. In other words, instead of us playing a guessing game, it's like, we know I'm just making this up. We know there's a bomb behind the door. And no, there's no real way for the players to really know there's a bomb behind the door. And we know that if they open the door, the bomb's going to go off. But should we warn the players? And they're basically saying, yeah, just let's not do that. Let's have the player understand at least the threat, and then let them deal with the threat, and then whatever the outcome of that threat is, whether it's a bomb, releasing a monster, destroying the MacGuffin that they were going after, whatever, instead of going, ha, I got you. Yeah, like it even talks about, says, of course, discovering a monster has a powerful poisonous bite can be a nice twist, but if a character is an expert on either monsters or poisons, it does not make much sense to deny them this information. On the contrary, revealing it will highlight their abilities, right? And that's basically like assumed professionalism. So, yes, your player probably knows the bad guy has a gun behind their back. We don't know that. We're playing a role-playing game, but your character, yeah, your character's a badass. Of course they would know something's amiss. And so, yeah. As a general rule, it doesn't make much sense to keep a threat or NPC's OL or opposition level and descriptors hidden if they've been revealed by the narrative. The surprise effect only makes sense the first time. So, and it's basically it's a best practice for this system. And I don't have a problem against it. I don't have a problem about doing that at all. I'm glad I got here. This is basically how the dice are rolled, and everything is in the hands of the players. So a player chooses the desired type of outcome they want, which determines the number of successes required. So outcome with the cost is the original opposition level. A standard outcome, which means you succeed without any complications, is a +1. And then outcome with the increment is +2. This is determined by players, not by the game master or syncdom. This is done by the players. Yes, I want to succeed with an increment. An increment is like a critical success, or to put your allies in a better position. Like, hey, not only am I going to block the way of the enemy, but I want to make it easier for my archer ally to get a good shot at the bad guys while I block the narrow pass or something like that. So the opposition level might be 5, but you're like, no, I'm gonna roll with a 7 and try to get it down from the 7 because I'm a good warrior, or I'm gonna spend my soma points, or I have an advantage because I'm a defender of the innocent or something like that, and I'm gonna use my defender ability, etc., etc. And all of this is in the hands of the players, so that as the game master, you can go, okay, that means you're going to be rolling a lot more dice. And you're like, yeah, well, I got a gift. I have an advantage here, blah, blah, blah. And again, rolling a bucket of dice is not a good thing. So kind of cool system. The sketchy black and white art. Yep. My favorite kind. Drew says, I am, however, annoyed with their use of first person in all the descriptors. It is first person. Let me get to one of the I'm going to highlight one of the characters here. Let me go to the I'm going to move this very quickly, and who did I not highlight? Here we go. Let's go to a 2-page. Let's see if you can actually see it. There we go. So if you're taking a look at this character, in the descriptors it says, I am. I learned that to live, we also need to kill. Even life has a price. I am a traveling acrobat. My home is... Now, what's in play, if I am playing the character, I'd be saying this to everybody at the table. So if my character is roof running, I would say to everyone else, well, hey, I am a traveling acrobat, so can I get a bonus on roof running? Or my home is on the road. I'm probably not going to get lost, right? Because my home is on the road. And the game master could say against me, well, you did say I love to indulge in pleasures all life can offer. So, when you stop with the nomadic tribe and you're in their harem and you smell the hookah and you want to indulge in that, I'd like to use that against you, or dangle some extra soma that you could regain in front of you. And you're like, yeah, I think I'll do that. So a lot of it is I, written from the point of view of the person playing the character. I owe Indara a favor. I'm close to Toad or Toadé. I hate how Ithoma looks at me with an air of superiority. He has to admire me so that I can later humiliate him. I like Athos, both physically for how she approaches life. I would relish becoming her companion. Right. So yeah, there is a lot of I, and the actual rules for the Monad Echo suggest that you use the first person. Sorry, Drew. So the Kickstarter never happened, but they were able to publish it anyway? No, it was suggested that the book would be like 300 plus pages, and it never came out. So this is a 70-page quick start, and that's it. That's all you get. Yeah, it never came out, but they released the quick start and just left it up and just went, go ahead and take it if you want. Nordic horror, Vikings try to rap it. That's a different game. Heathen says, I can see where the first person tense is jarring to some, but I find it charming, maybe helpful to immersion. I think that's what they were trying to go for. And also there's a little bit of I don't want to say syntax. It might be a tabletop role-playing enthusiasm that might rub some people the wrong way. Drew says, when talking about my character, I will talk in third person, never in first person. I am not my character. And I don't have a problem with people doing that. But I think sometimes some people will vacillate between the two, meaning like I'm going to talk in character, so I say I, but when I use the game rules, I say, well, my character has this. Some people go back and I think, let me see, what do I do? I think I go back and forth. So I might begin a conversation with, all right, so my character's talking to the guard, and then I start talking in my character's in first person. Hey, let us in, blah, blah, blah. And I reach, and then I might say, well, hey guys, I'm gonna reach into my pouch and show them the dark orb or whatever and go, hey, look, stare deep into it. Look how it glistens. Maybe you should let my friends into the gate. I would kindly trade this to you, or something like that. So do I talk in first person? I probably do maybe 30% of the time playing, depending on the game. But because, some people treat tabletop role playing as improv. And I don't have a problem with either one by someone saying, my character says this, or what's the name of this character? Revo. Revo says to the guard, blah, 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 right? Yeah. Planescape is very much, yeah. Yep. Yeah. And what is it? They used to call people a body. Instead of saying someone else, they would use the term a body. Yeah, a body sure would be careful not to offend so-and-so. Yeah, Planescape, it was like that, very much so. It was definitely a mix of tenses and default pronoun. Yep, it was definitely a mix. It's almost, it had its own context and syntax that made it unique to itself. I found most players start the game in third and first comes out more and more as they get into it. Yeah. I agree with that. Drew says, interesting. I find this first person hindering to immersion. Since when everybody talks about their character in first person, then I get the head hopping feeling that is recommended to be avoided. No, it's different. And I bet, yeah, body Burke, yep. Yeah, for Planescape. But and I think that's maybe, first of all, I think all of us are individual, how we love our role-playing games. But I also think it could be cultural, like in your region, Drew, it may be normal for that to happen, whereas in other regions, it's kind of considered this other thing. I don't have a problem with either one. I just think it's just different. That's all. Oh, I don't know. I think it's just escapism. I hear you, Drew, but I don't know. It doesn't. I think we would all wish we were other people. And so someone doing that, yeah, it could be that. Could be embracing that. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Role playing as the character in first person is one thing, but people should do what makes them comfortable. Exactly. That's what I think. Whatever makes you comfortable. And mind you, some games encourage you to do one over the other. So, for example, this game, Fate, games where you have like a meta currency or when the meta currency has a lot of churn in it, it will make you step out more than I am playing my character. I'm going to speak in character in this actual play that's being recorded with studio audience or something. So, because if you use a meta currency, your player doesn't know they're using a meta currency, but you do. So you may say, like, my character is arrogant. I would like to earn this meta currency by, I don't know, failing by indulging in my passions, right? You don't want to do that, but you're playing the character, so you're stepping outside of it like a director. So yeah, I think. It says, nope, I think it's regional. There's a reason why third person is so successful in books. Yeah, it could be regional. And it also depends on how some books are written. Like some books are written written by a unreliable narrator. Like, follow me, dear adventurer, and I'll tell you about blah, 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 right? And then there's some other books that are just very third person neutral. This is how you do this thing. This is what is here. This is blah. It's not a real person. It's just conveying information to you. Cockney rhyming. Yeah, I guess there is a part to that. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me show off Evolution Pulse Rebirth. There's a link below. You can get it for free on a Thru RPG. You can get over to World Anvil and find out what it is that they have. Matter of fact, sorry, look, I'm going to go over to the OGL. At the very end of the OGL, there are other games that use this system. The Monad Echo system. Broken Tales is available. I don't own that. Dead Air Seasons. I own multiple books of Dead Air Seasons, which is based on, it is, how do you say The Last of Us without saying The Last of Us? And that is Dead Air Seasons. And then there's Evolution Pulse Rebirth. And so you can find us at World Anvil. I'm a bit surprised, honestly, that the Monad ecosystem and the games from World Anvil aren't popular when World Anvil itself is a, dare I say, standard in the tabletop role-playing, world-building, online organization system or something. Like when people talk about, hey, is there an online system for me to help me world build? I think World Anvil's like a top 5, top 3, top 5. I've heard of Obsidian. I've heard of, Mythweaver or something like that. I can't remember all the names, but anyway, both of these are free. Both of these are available for your perusal. So check them out. If you are someone into Ancient Aliens, Lovecraftian horror, and players who portray characters that are fighting against the system, the man, in a brutal, grim, dark world, try this. It says, I love this idea of revealing things to the players and trusting them to play their characters appropriately. Exactly. And remember, it's in the hands of the players, right? So if they play on what they know, fine, but it also, the dice could go out of their favor for them even playing on that, right? So, yeah. I already informed DMs how I fail when I roll ones. Yeah. I do that too. I play into the failure. Yeah, was my character just too scared, thoughtless, clumsy, way too angry? Exactly. Drunken bard who suddenly realized he forgot his pants. and the other patrons are like, ooh, you should forget your pants more often there, Bardy Bard. Yeah, I remember doing, I told you the story about one of my players that was like was confronted with a succubus, and he was just like, nah, I failed my roll. And we were just like, what? Wait? And we were like early 20s, teenagers, something like that. And we were like, okay. And the succubus was like, I'm surprised. I'm going to be your best friend. It was kind of fun. And you can have some fun with that. Listen, that doesn't always work with a lot of players. That doesn't work very much at all. So you have to play the game that really goes into that kind of thing. Really embraces the failure. And this game does that and does it up front and puts it in the player's hands. So, which is why I'm a bit of a fan of the Monad ecosystem, meaning like the player chooses to roll the dice knowing there will be a complication involved with it, or they can roll more dice to say, or have to go against the opposition level that's even higher to get more successes and go, I really don't want to have a side effect from this thing that I'm trying to do, you know. Yeah, I thought about doing, let me see if I can find it in my RPGs. John's Guide to the Armageddon is an Italian version of Revelations in 5th edition. It's 5th edition biblical revelations from Italy. I wasn't sure if you guys would want me to go through that, but maybe next week. We're still going around the world. So Evolution Pulse Rebirth, Alexander the Great releases a Lovecraftian horrific people who end up taking over his empire, and you play in that world. Hope you like it. Check it out. It's free. Maybe check out the Monad ecosystem for yourself if you want to be a game designer, creator, or you like the really terrible descriptor that I made of how the dice system works. I don't know. But anyway, guys, have a great one. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend as well. And we'll see you next week. Remember, we're going to continue finding games that are based on the culture, the mythology, the designers from that region of the world, and see what they have to say about tabletop role-playing games. It doesn't mean that they're experts. It doesn't mean... It's something to look at. And this has become a little bit of a hobby for me, like trying to pick up these games. If you know of a game that's pretty interesting and has an interesting basis or origin from someplace around the world that's not in the States, I would love to hear about it. If there's a designer from around the world that even might accidentally find this channel, and you're a designer from someplace that's not in the United States, and you're like, hey, I'm from Manila, I'm from Australia, I'm from this place, and I really, whatever. Please let me know about those games as well, and maybe we'll do a spotlight on it. Have a great weekend. Oh, thanks for the yeah. Thank you there. I really appreciate it, and thank you, Heathen, and thank you, Drew, because Drew's always here to like put me in my place, which I kind of like it. I appreciate it because I need to have a different point of view from other people, especially literally across the pond, and figuratively of a different mindset. And some of these games could probably benefit from, or a creator could benefit from, like, oh, I didn't think anyone had that mindset because I always hear this other way of doing a thing. And so role-playing games, I think, allow all of us to express ourselves and to see different points of view. I love it. Because I think it allows us to become a different entity and a different person. Yeah, and I'm definitely here with One-Eyed Heathen about, explaining, like, why did my character fail? Why did this happen? This Monad ecosystem really embraces that. Like, hey, written on your character are some excellent reasons for... I'll play the contrarian. Exactly. I appreciate that you appreciate your position as the appointed... No, yay, anointed contrarian over on this channel. It doesn't bother me. Or no, let me take that back. It bothers me in the best way, if that makes sense. I guess I don't know if you call that a compliment or not. It keeps the brain fresh and new. Yeah. Oh, thank you guys. All right, next week we will still continue. I think we are in our northern Eastern European. We'll probably go Nordic north, and then we'll flow around maybe south into Africa, and also into like Egypt, Africa, Middle East. We'll do that area, and then we'll start flowing what us so-called arrogant first world countries call the eastern part of a globe, and then we'll flow towards Mongolia, Thailand, Japan, China, in that region as well. But we've got enough material to go north and south, and curve succinctly, crescent wise through the Middle East. So we've got a number of games that do that as well. Hopefully, we are also embracing the people that have created those games from that region. I can't promise you, investigation wise, whether they will be from that region or not officially, but hopefully they would be, and give some context to that. And then after once we get to Japan, we'll go across I do have a supplement for Polynesia. I've got one from Israel, Egypt, Central Africa, Scandinavia. Where else are we going? I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head. This should be cool. Don't know much about sub-Saharan Africa myth and folklore. Oh yeah, we're going to get some really great stuff in there. That surprised me because listen, I'm from the States. I really don't have very much connection to my African heritage other than my genetics, and I don't even know how much genetics that has carried over. So yeah, some real cool stuff. So guys, have a great one. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. I will see thee later. Peace and tranquility.